Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Just here doing some painting, as a lot of times people get, as miniatures gamers, we get a backlog of things that we need to do. Painting is probably one of the biggest, I think. But I'm Dave. David with What Game Now? Big Kid Dave, some of them call me. And but no, just trying to get through and do a little bit of painting each night or every other night or every chance that I get, so that I can catch up on some of it. Right now I am doing some trying to get more towards finishing up my Blood Bowl Dwarves. It's just a box of Dwarves from GW. Do a lot of games. Like to learn a lot of games. We have our War Machine as well, that we're doing our escalation. And please let me know if anything is, anything is going on with the audio or the video on the stream. We'll try to fix it. Once again, What Game Now is our channel, and it's just all about games, how to play, and painting and assembly, and all the things that go along with different games. We don't just do miniature games. Miniatures games are going to have some card game stuff out there as well. So right now I'm working on this one of the dwarfs from my Blood Bowl Dwarfs, like I said. And of course, at this point, I can't remember what position this actually is. So let's see. Trying to see what position this actually is. Let's see. So Blood Bowl Dwarves. Positions. But you'll see in the bottom left hand corner, that's the GW picture of what I'm working on. So it isn't exactly the way that it is in there. You should be able to see as it focuses in that I went a little darker on the beard and the mohawk. I don't think you can call that anything but a mohawk. And I went kind of like a stone on his, like a stone on the spikes there. I didn't want to go gold like they show. So I need to fix that. I think everything's about right on there. Yeah. So, but anyway. What I'm going to do today is I need to. I did some stone on his bracers here, and I need to get some blue around it to kind of bring that out and clean up where I went over on it. So on both bracers, and then on the underside, there's this space right here in the middle where it's like where it laces up, and I need to go like some stone in there too. And with our stone, I'm basically taking some matte white and I like Army Painter paints because they're in the bottle. GW paints, I mean, it's good paint, but I like to be able just to squeeze out a little bit. Army Painter paints are great, they're cheaper, but also I've also used some, like while working on the War Machine ones, some of this Vallejo game color also comes in. Also comes in a tube, in a squeeze bottle. And you can hear my cat, I'm sure, out there at the door. She is just being that way today. So that's right. This is a Troll Slayer. So there are 2 of them in the box that you get. Of the 12 guys that you get from the GW box, which I don't have the box. I picked these up from somebody else. During these hobby things, I mean, this hobby backlog, as I like to call it, I mean, I'll be working on some other models as well. There's one of the War Machine models from our Escalation League, or Escalation series, where we start with the starter set and move on, building the army so everybody can see it. But we did some assembly on them as well. So, I guess I'll start off in your paints, just kind of talking about what I use. Showed you my paints. I use mostly Army Painter paints. The color we're going to be using in this is deep blue. Deep blue is what I use for all of the padding and stuff on this, and also I'll use for this gem at the bottom of his the bottom of his beard. It's on the ground. So we're using deep blue on that one. I also have, if you can see it, I have on the side over here. Oh, I just picked it up and you can see it. I have a wet palette over here. It's basically just a homemade one. It has some sponges in the bottom of a cheap container with a little bit of parchment paper on it. I find that it keeps paints moist longer, and and you can work longer with them. Using a dry palette like something like one of these or something like that, the paint eventually does dry out and you have to add a little bit more water to it, but this just kind of goes over it like that. So this kind of keeps it wet. So the one thing I can say is make sure you can never shake your paints too much. So go ahead and make sure you shake them. Shake them up real good so all the pigment and everything gets in there, especially if they've been sitting a little while. I did some shaking of this one before I started streaming, but you know, we'll see how it works. My chair is very noisy as I move around. It's an older chair, and it gets a little weird. It gets a little bit loud. So, we've shaken this up pretty good. Once again, Army Painter Deep Blue is what I'm using for all of the armor pieces. We're going to squirt a little bit in onto the wet palette. I'm not an expert at painting. I enjoy doing it a lot. So that's all I think that you need is to enjoy doing it. I usually just wet my brush a little bit. I also want to keep a cup of water, obviously, for cleaning out your brushes in between colors. or just when you've got too much on there, which seems like I kind of do now. And so you wash it. It also helps to get the brush wet and to shape the tip a little bit. Some people might think it's disgusting, but every once in a while, I even just put the brush in my mouth and pull it out so that it makes like a point on the tip. The stray hairs and stuff from the brush can be a problem. So I'm going to be working in a very small area here around this one piece. If I go over on it, it's not the end of the world because I can touch up the stone pieces again. But the one thing that most people who paint will stress is that every painting works best in thin layers. So we want to make sure that we take our time and go over each section, like I said, in layers, and not try to get too much paint in at one time. So some people, and I may be one of those people soon, if my eyes don't start focusing better as I get older, we'll use a magnifier either attached to a lamp or a headset, headgear that has like the magnifying lenses. There's nothing wrong with that. Make sure that you can get some more detail in there. Depending on what you're trying to do, obviously detail is important. You can also, when you, like I said, sometimes I just wet the tip of it. That's bad, but basically just take the brush and put it in my mouth to wet it, and then pull it out to get a good point. You can also do the same thing in your paint when you're dipping. Just kind of roll your brush as you put it in there and kind of pull it away from the paint, and that will also allow the brush to get to a nice point. I'm not liking the brush that I'm currently using, so oops, well, that was a earthquake. I'm not liking the brush I'm currently using, so I'm going to reach up and see if I can find a different one in my container here. What happens to brushes, they're not taken care of, which I'm as guilty as anybody on that front. I don't have like a special wash or conditioning thing that I use, but I don't use very expensive brushes. To be honest, I mostly just use Walmart brushes. By that I mean brushes that I buy at Walmart. They're not Walmart branded, obviously. I think I actually have a pack up here. Oh, getting used to this setup here, so bear with me if I knock things around a little bit. This is the pack that I usually get. They're folk art brushes, so gold Taklon, if that's how you say it, and then fine detail brushes. Find that it's really shiny with the lights, but They have a number of different sizes, and they all come to a nice fine point. So, if you can see that, it's great. But they're gold Taklon folk art, and they only cost like $4 and some change, maybe $4.50 for all the brushes. So if something happens to one, you're not as apt to get upset about it, because let's be honest, once you get through them, you've probably done a number of models with them, even if you don't necessarily take care of them, as long as you clean them at the end. So just throw them away and get some more. If that's another topic we can talk about while I paint, which is, oh, hey bud, how you doing today? Yeah, the kitty is getting crazy. I don't know how long ago you put that up there, but hey, what's going on? It's good to talk. Good to see you. But yeah, so as I was saying, we could talk about paint. That's what I was going to talk about. So, like I said, I use Army Painter paints mostly. Some people swear by different kinds. Okay, they're water-based acrylic paints. The main difference, I mean, I'm sure there's like some formula differences and so on and so forth. But the main difference that I see in paints, it's kind of like how they're mixed and their thickness and ready to usability, what you want to call it, ready to usability. Army Painter paints, if I use in a wet palette, are pretty much ready to go, in my opinion. Basically, I just put them out on here on my wet palette and kind of go stir them around a little bit, and then just start painting. What brought it to my attention was the folk art paintbrushes, because in the same place that you get them, you can also get folk art paints. There's another brand that they sell to, I think, like Apple or something like that. And these are craft paints, is what they call them. I'm going to pull this out so I can get a better look at it to see where I'm at on the thing. Folk art, and I think they said the other brand is called Apple. And I think I actually have a couple of them laying around somewhere. And results may vary depending on like how much you know about paint, and how much you're willing to mess with. Like I said, out of the bottle, Army Painter paints, Vallejo paints, those right there, they are pretty much plug and play. Pick them up, put a brush in them, or pour them out, put a brush in them, maybe mix them up a little bit, and you're pretty much done. With the folk art types of paints, they're a little thicker. They're basically the same type of paint, but they're just a little bit thicker. And I'm trying to look at these colors. I think we're good there. They're a little bit thicker, and I think with the right dilution, the right mixture of paint and water, you could probably use them just the same. And the reason why that's of interest to some people is that a $2 army painter thing, an army painter bottle of paint, and your regular paints, not your metallics or washes or whatever, is about $2.99 a bottle, depending where you get it. It's about $3, and that's appealing to most, because that's more money to spend on other things in the hobby. If you really want to, if you really want to, think about it. I'm trying to find a better picture of this. So it is a, and this is like I think it's, what size? Like 18 milliliter bottle. Your folk art paints. I don't have a bottle in here, but they're, where this one is like this little small bottle, your folk art paints are a lot larger. If this is 18 milliliters, I mean, it must be, I don't even know. Like, it's probably 10 times the size of that. So, there's a lot more paint there. And they cost like, maybe it's like 5 times bigger than that. But still, there's a lot more paint there. And it's 50 cents in most cases. Like, you can get them 2 for $1. A lot of paint for 50 cents. So, if that's appealing to you for budgetary reasons, then, maybe you want to work with that. Try some, like, if you want to test them out, take some of pieces like this. I still have some of this sprue that was left over from my War Machine assembly. Primer it just like you would a piece of, or a model. Primer it the same color, and then test the paints on there. Try different, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, even if that's what it takes to thin it out enough to do your painting with. And I think you might be able to find the right ratio. And as long as the more you use it, the better you get at it. So I've gotten the blue in there pretty good. So I'm going to go and do the other one. I'll wash my brush out there in between. You don't have to. As long as the paint's wet, you're usually pretty good. I'm picky in the fact that I don't like the paint. The paint sometimes can get gunked up in there if you let it sit too long. So I like to make sure that that if I'm not going to use the brush for a few seconds, like when I was just talking, that I just wash it out and then dry it off. And just dry. I'm getting used also to being in frame here. Then we'll make adjustments on where we're at on that. I like it to be a little closer to me, so let me just go ahead and make that adjustment here. All right, and I'm sorry if it bugs you that one of the cameras is a little behind or ahead of the other one, but I'm gonna get a little shake here because I'm gonna tilt this back just a little because I like the piece to be closer to me when I'm painting so I can see it better. But that ought to get us a little bit better where you can see better and I can see better to do what it is that we're doing today. So once again, just going around, you don't have to glob anything on. A little bit at a time. Lay down a little strip of paint further away from where you want it to end, and then move in on it. Some people like to just get up real close and then move out of the way. Also remember, like, some of these things are raised, so you don't want to paint, if you're looking for at least a little bit of detail, you don't want to paint all the way up the side of the raised piece. You want to just stop close to it, like right as it butts up against it. You don't want to put too much paint in there. Let me get a little closer up here. But you don't want to paint the sides of the raised piece, because then it doesn't look quite right, because it's supposed to be kind of stuck on there. Once again, I'm not an expert at painting, but this is the way that I paint. I'm always open for tips. One of the other things I want to talk about with these paint handles. There are a lot of different things out there. This is a GW paint handle that I'm using. There are this size, and then there's an extra large size for bigger pieces. What I mean by that is, if you look at this War Machine piece right here, sorry, you look at the War Machine piece right here, it is a much larger base. This base, I believe, is a 40 millimeter base. I could be wrong about that. It might be a 50. Won't fit in this one. I'd have to go buy the bigger one. Some of the things that people use for them to make their own is they'll use old prescription bottles, old paint bottles, or even paint bottles they're currently using. And they'll use a little bit of sticky tack, poster tack. If you don't know what that is, I'll bring some on the screen here in a second. Yeah, there's a piece I missed. So, like I said, make little layers and then go back and make touch-ups. You don't want to spread your paint too thin, then you won't get decent coverage. And there's different levels of painting. That's something a lot of people don't take into account, is how you want see, now that I've made that adjustment with the with it, I'm pushing it forward again. So what I have here, I think it's a decently detailed paint, but I wouldn't call it, there's a lot of details on here that I'm not hitting with this brush. Okay. So if you look, or with this particular model, I have a problem with my brush here. All right. So I'm going to go here. I didn't have this painted before, but I see it now. There's this little piece of this bracer, which I call it a bracer, but now that it's going down towards his hands, I guess it's more of a gauntlet. I don't know, do gauntlets have to be like the whole hand? It's a good question. Anyway, so like there's some details, like there's laces or like stitching / laces like kind of right here on his legs, on his pants, and you know I could go in there and touch that up, you know, add a little bit of detail to that, but I'm not. Why I'm not? I mean, it's just not something I want to do. I want it to look, so basically this model, when you set it down on the table to play a game, I mean after you've put some sort of protectant, some clear coat or something over it, it's gonna look good sitting there, or what something like call a 2-foot or a 3-foot paint job. It looks great from like 2 or 3 feet away. But if you put it under a magnifying glass or got real close to it, you're going to notice imperfections. And that's fine with me. There may be a day where I try to make a higher quality paint or higher quality miniature. But for me, as long as they look good to me, I'm good with that. So we've got the blue painted on here, and also the details, some other detail stuff. So like right here there's a lace up of his gauntlet. Really and truthfully, like there's a couple of places that I could paint up and then go back, and I may still do that now that I look at it. Just get where I know the blue goes. And then when I go back with my matte white before putting some wash over it to make it look more stone-like, then I'll fix that. The edges. So I think that's what I want to do here. So basically you want to go, just make sure you do to your specifications. If you're worried about what other people think about it, then take more time and do it the way you want to do it to make it look awesome, and to make people ooh and ah over it. I personally have shown this one off before a number of times, so I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are like that I want their approval on it. Well, I want to know that it looks decent. That's where my need for approval on it goes. That's how far it goes. I want it to look decent, and I want people to be able to see it and know it's not just just a single, just like a little piece of plastic that, I didn't take the time to care about. So, all right. So, the decision you make in painting. So I like this guy. I put a lot of time into his beard and making everything good. And to be honest with you, these bracers / gauntlets have bugged me for a while because I never went back after making the stone pieces on there right. So I just kind of did that. So now that I've done that, I feel much better that it's been done. Some more things, like I love these models, these troll slayers, because they're barefoot. So they play Blood Bowl, they play on the field and just kind of leave everything out there. But they're barefoot and everything. And I may actually get a little bit more dirt on the bottom of their feet and maybe feet. The bottom, I've been watching too much Letterkenny. The bottom of their feet and maybe a little hint of green for like kind of like grass stains. But I think overall, he looks pretty good. There's some other things like, and I can see his teeth in there, so I may try to put some white in there without messing up the orange, and then getting in closer for his little bit of white in the eyes. It's going to take a very detailed brush and a steady hand for that. So what I want to do right now, let's see. So that's one of the guys. I want to go ahead and put him over here. You'll still be able to see him on the side camera. But I want to bring in some of the other guys. Here's my other Troll Slayer, and it's probably what I'm going to work on next. He's got some pretty intricate details that I want to go on, and he also needs some touch up on some of those other things. He has a helmet over his face, so that's one thing that needs to be worked on. And also this pattern in his this like stone thing or whatever part of his helmet that his mohawk goes in. So we'll need to figure out how I'm going to do that, whether it's painting it blue on the background and then putting that white with the wash on it. Trying to find the right spot to show you that. So anyway, there is, yeah, you can see it there. So anyway, these are some of the other ones that we're working on. Most of the dwarfs are like the blockers, and there's a couple of blitzers. But the one thing you'll notice on these is that pretty much they all have beards. So my choice is whether or not to make all the beards the same color, which I don't think I will. The orange is on this one, but we have some other ones that we're working on that I'll be working on. So these are harder to see because they're all just painted black. So if I can get to my other window here, I can give you a better view of them. So as soon as it focuses in, come on. Now. Anyway, I don't know why it's not focusing. Hey, let's get closer to it. Oh, there we go. And then pull back. There we go. So you can see the long beard. Some of these are going to be blonde. Some of them will be black, with kind of like grayish colors. So we're going to be a number of them. I'm just going to set this box in here so that we can see it. And there was that thinner brush that I was looking for. Alright, so I don't know why that bag is in there. And I don't know why this Nurgle dude is in here. So, as you can see, I try to keep my projects in these little containers. It has the models and all my paint colors in it for what I'm doing. I don't think everything is actually in here. I think there's a blue tone that I need to put in here, which I normally go over the blue parts to darken them up a little bit. So as you can see with this particular guy, there he is. Okay, this particular guy, his padding is lighter than the little bit, maybe not as much, but you can see there's a difference in the color of the two paddings once the damn thing decides to focus. Well, maybe it's not going to focus, but anyway, there's a difference in the padding color. This one's a little bit this way. Or that way. A little bit more matte. And it doesn't look as quite as filled out. There's a smooth pad, so makes a difference. And this one has a little bit of color. The other one has a little bit of color in it. So anyway, so I try to keep them in little project trays with the colors of what I'm trying to do. And this is my Blood Bowl project, which I'll probably be working on for the next few videos. I am going to go ahead and bring out my other Troll Slayer though. Because he's the next to be worked on. Now, his beard still needs some finishing. 100%. So that's going to be good because you're going to be able to see kind of the process I went through. Darkening everything up. Building everything up. So let's see, it's very light. So we're going to put a few more coats of paint on that beard eventually. His mohawk is about where I want it. So we're going to put a few more coats of orange on his beard, and then we're going to use the wash that I used on this one, which I think was just like a light tone, to put some detail in it. We'll need to do the bracers like we did on the last one. I think his pants are pretty good. I kind of wanted them dirty on these, so you basically get like gray pants, but with just dirt and grime. I may also need to touch up his skin tone a little bit. So this one you'll get to see a little bit more, and then as we go into the lineman, you're going to see a lot more of some of the decision making that goes into painting a model. So, and everybody's different. So, but I like dwarfs and gnomes and halflings, things like the shorter fantasy races. Don't ask me why, because I'm 6'2", or sorry, 6'2". I'm 6'4", and I'm 350. So I'm a pretty big fella. So why I like the little peoples of the realm, I'll never know. Pretty sure. Okay. So I'm gonna move this over so I can see it, and then we can also see. Actually, I can make this window smaller, so I can still see what I need to see All right. There's a delay in the stream, so when I try to watch the preview that's on my screen, which reminds me, I got this preview over here. Okay, it is muted. Cool, because I haven't been listening to that. All right. So, I think I've gotten all the blue I'm going to do on this one, and I think it's safe to do the blue on my other Troll Slayer now, and I have to wait for another color to be done, because I think I can still do the orange beard without an issue. So I'm going to put the one Troll Slayer there. He technically has a name. Because I played in a campaign. Put him right there. I played in a campaign at the shop I used to own. So all the dwarves were different names of different types of teas, like teas that you drink. And I don't remember why that was. So, all right. So we're going to load this one up into our paint handle. Pretty simple. And paint handles are great. Like I said, I was going through that earlier. Like, I have this one here, and it is just a, well, this was a block of wood, but you can just get a dowel rod, pretty decent size, at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever your hardware store is. Cut it to the size you want. And then what you do, no matter what you use for a handle, like I said, old prescription bottles are good. Wood dowels work. Whatever you decide. It also depends on how big of a handhold you want. But we also have, so then you take some poster tack or something like that. This is, I don't have the packaging for it, I don't think. Yeah, I do. This one's Loctite mounting tabs. Then you just open up the plastic, take them out, pull off a piece or two, press it down on top of something like this even. This is a toothpick thing that I have. You press it down on top, and then, actually I can just show you. It won't kill me to use some of it. So, sorry for the sound if it's really loud. So you pull it off, you stick it on there. This is another model that I have here. And you just press down on it. Okay, make sure it's good and secure. And then basically you can turn it whatever way you want. I'll let you get kind of underneath the bottom halves, like in here. Well, let's get in there. So you can get underneath clothing, down the legs better. You can even turn it around like this, which gives you an awesome way to paint some of the lower stuff. So if you have it like this, maybe you don't like the angle, so you can always change the angle. I paint with my left hand, but because I am left-handed, but you can see I can just basically hold it however I want, which helps when it comes to details. You might not want to hit it the other way. Just turn it around. See, no problem. Easy peasy. All right. I'll put this brush in the water because it's been sitting there, so we're going to see if it holds the shape I want. All right, so back to the model we're looking at. I got a lot of blue in here. And since we're using that one, let's see if we can get our... I want to add another image on my thing here. I'm going to try not to make it too crazy. Because there are... Yeah, those other images didn't come out as JPEGs or whatever on from the GW website, so it's not letting me choose the other ones. So let me see if I can get... Anyway, I want to get a picture of this guy. So if anybody's watching and you just have a question, just want to chat, whatever, I'm doing good. We will definitely take a look at it. We'll definitely talk about whatever. Keep it clean, because you know YouTube's getting crazy about that stuff. Alright. It's also a good time just to say, if you look on the screen there, you can see we have a Facebook for What Game Now, Instagram, Twitter. We're still working on getting our 100 subscribers so that we can get our URL for, the What Game Now URL for YouTube. We're currently like 78, 79, so we're getting closer. Any people who subscribe that are here now will help greatly for that. And I'll be announcing a giveaway for some stuff. It's going to be probably War Machine stuff, but we'll look and see what else we have. And I'm just trying to pull up the GW site real quick. Which is games-workshop.com. We'll just go into the web store so we can get a good picture of this Troll Slayer. Always good to have a reference, a picture. I mean, you can look it over, 100 times. And sometimes you look at a painted version of it and you just you see things. Also, GW is pretty good about making 360 images of stuff. Oh yeah, the ogre team. That's gonna be fun. Gonna be doing a lot more than just painting on this this hobby. Sorry, it's Hobby Backlog. I have modeling to do and assembly to do. I also have a cool project I want to do. So I like the Gaslands game. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Normally we use different models at Hot Wheels and Matchbox. It's kind of like what we do use. And I'm sorry if that's very crackly. But these are mystery models from Hot Wheels. Those are, you can kind of see what is offered in the series. And one of them's like a complete mystery as to what it looks like, unless you probably look it up online. Anyway, this is like Series 3. Comes with a car and a sticker. Which I'm not concerned about the sticker. But it'll take 3 of these, either on a live stream like this or just in a video series, and open them all 3 up, look at them, and then give like a week or so to Frankenstein something out of what's there. So cut it up, take pieces from each, wheels, even sometimes it even comes down to like cutting parts off. Maybe I like the front end of one and the back end of another. Maybe I can make a cool car out of that. So that'll be fun. But Gaslands uses Hot Wheels, and then you get to like strip them down and make modifications, put weapons on them. Fun time. All right. Still getting to my dwarves. And for those who don't know, the team is the Dwarf Giants. That's what the team you get in the box. So, all right, let's see if I can get a good picture of this other guy. Yes, he is right there. That's why it is like that. It's because when you try to save it, because they have a 360 view. I wondered why that was. Okay. So if I try to save it here, let's see what it gives me. Just want to look at him pretty close. Because also too, sometimes it I wonder if no. Let's do this. Blood Bowl. Dwarf. Or Dwarves. And let's just do an image search. Let's see if we can find a good image of him outside of there. There we go. I mean, there's obviously a number of pictures of him around, but I don't want to take anybody else's work, really. I mean, the stock photo that they make, not too worried about. They do what they do. Let's see if we can. I don't want to take too much more time on this. Oh, it's funny to see, and maybe I'll pull those up for the next time I'm on. It's funny to see like what the old Blood Bowl minis look like compared to what they look like now. I think this might do for what we need. So we're going to save that image. Alright. Sorry about the delay. Yeah, okay. Sorry about the delay there. I'm going to just add this image. Image 3. What I'm going to call it there. So, and then we're going to just pluck it out. It's not as high quality as the one that I had on for this other dude. But it'll probably work likely. Alright. So yeah. So as you can see, he changes a bit from the other one. Okay. So he has more skulls, more gems in his beard. I wish I had a side view of him. Okay, so everywhere they have gold, I'm kind of using a stone in a way. So, um, so towards the top on his helmet, there are some brow work that's kind of in gold, and the nose piece. Also, most of this piece that's in his hair. I kind of have. Oops. Okay. So what I was saying is, over here on his. So we got on the top of his, where his mohawk is. That's part of his helmet that holds, goes over his mohawk. Unlike the other one, which is wide open and there's no helmet. So I'm thinking what I'll do is just do the whole thing in blue. And then just go around and do, well, the whole inner piece in blue. And then the edges of it can stay stone. So we'll come in here and stone those up. And then all this, there's like, I don't know if you can see it. There is like some interesting like scroll work there. See if I can get the camera to focus on it. Some stone work. There you go. So right in there, some stone work. So we'll leave that stone. So basically, to start off, we'll likely go and blue everything but the edges, since we already have the blue out. So we'll blue everything but the edges and make sure we get in between the little stonework pieces. And then we'll go back and get the detail with the white, the matte white, and then we'll take the tone that I was using, which is kind of a dark tone, kind of diluted dark tone, and go over it to make it look kind of stony. Alright, so with the blue right now, we're going to do quite a few things actually on this one. We're going to, it's a little thicker than I'd want it. So let me get some water in there. Yeah, that's better. So all right. So we're gonna go on this piece right here. We're not going to worry so much about overlapping the stonework right now. Or these, like, the details. Some people, you definitely want to worry about them. Like, you don't want to lay on so thick. That's why you use thin layers. You don't want to lay on so thick that you erase the detail with just a sheer amount of paint. Okay, so you want just to lightly go over, but since it's basically the bottom layer of this, we don't have to worry as much because we're going to come back over it. Now, if you are going over it in a white, kind of like I am going to be, then yeah, you might worry about it a little bit because you don't want to have to do like 14 shades of, or 14 layers of white on it. But you also don't want to try to go around all these little bitty edges with the blue and just not touch anything, because that doesn't work either. Also, you want to move around. Like I said, all these things are just my opinion and the things that I've kind of learned as I went on. You kind of want to move. I don't like so much paint on there. You also want to paint what you're going to paint. Like in this area I'm painting right now. See, this paint is a little bit thin. Might have added a little too much water there. But that's a problem that can be fixed. You just kind of lay it all out. If it's too thin, you let it dry. And you go over it another time. But you don't want it pooling. So in that case, if you dry off your brush and go back over it a little bit, if it's pooling, the dryer brush will take off some of that extra paint. Just kind of get it in the little details. Just kind of dab it. Okay. But what I was saying before is you want to let these dry, because it's quick drying stuff. But if you don't let it dry, then you try to put another coat on it, you're not going to get any results out of it, because it is you're not going to get anything out of it because you're just pushing the wet paint around. You want it to dry up so that you can put another layer on top of it and make it thicker. That's the point. And I don't want that brush either. I had a very smaller brush. Much smaller brush here. Smaller tipped brush. Anyway. So if you have multiple places around the model that need the same color, then work on them all. And let the first ones that you worked on dry. Assess whether they need another coat or not, which they likely will. And then go over them. But these paints are very quick dry. I should say this type of paint is very quick dry. It's the brand. I mean, I guess the brand could mean the difference between a couple of seconds or a few seconds in drying, or a minute, I guess, but or the difference between 20 seconds and 30 seconds, or the difference between a minute and 2 minutes, or whatever. But I'm pretty sure they're all about the same. It also depends on how much water you're adding. So I don't like to add much of any except for what comes from my palette, but sometimes it's necessary. So trying to get a look here, make sure that I am getting all of this the way that I want. And remember, you'll learn your own techniques and things that you like. and don't like. As you paint, you will decide, you would kind of develop your own style. And as long as, once again, as long as you're satisfied with your style, it shouldn't matter what others think about it. Just paint. As long as when you're done you feel a sense of satisfaction, well, that is what is important. And if it's something that you really enjoy, don't let anybody talk you out of doing it or telling you you're bad at it, because you know what? Who cares? You're having fun. Once again, if you're going over details or going over things that are going to be the bottom layer of something, so like I'm putting on what's essentially like the armor parts in the blue, you don't have to worry as much about hitting other things on the model that you don't necessarily want to be that color, because you can always go back and touch those up. This is kind of a little different because I started them a certain way, and then learned a few things as I went. So I wish that I'd have known those things beforehand, because it would have saved myself, once again, quite a bit of time. But essentially, you want to start with what's going to be the lowest layer. And do those colors first. In most models that's kind of like the skin tone, because all the clothes, all the armor, everything is going to go on top of the skin tone. I mean, it pretty much has to, unless it's something that, I mean, even if it's something that's going into the skin, it's still on top of the skin tone. So if you paint the skin tone first, if you paint the skin tone first, you can paint over some of the other areas. As an example, so if I'm painting on the skin tone on this model, on top of the skin tone I have these straps that go for the armor. I have these gauntlets / bracers. I mean, I have all of these things. But if I'm painting the skin tone, it's the first color I'm using, and I get skin tone paint on, the bracers or the straps, I'm still going to have to paint that, whatever color I'm going to paint it. So it's not as important that I got a little bit of skin tone on it, because it's just going to get painted over. Where it would make a difference is if I'm painting too thick. Then of course it can make the the rest of it look weird, because you're painting multiple layers and one's too thick, and it causes the other one to kind of puff up, or look thick. So what you want are just thin layers. You can always add a little more, but it's hard to take away when you do too much. So I think that looks like a fine bracer, both sides. Like I said, we can touch up any details on those with the white later. Um, I'm going to go ahead and put another layer of blue on this part, his helmet parts, because they're a little thin. One of the other things that I don't know, you kind of learned is that you begin to develop like a little style of your own, but it also gives a different look than what you might have seen elsewhere. So, what I mean by that is kind of have a good, almost a perfect example of that here. In just a second, I'll grab it. Um, maybe I won't because it's in two different places. But, and maybe I can show it next time. But, um, you also want to make sure you keep paint on your brush, and if you're only putting a little bit, you only want to paint a little bit, and then re-wet, put some more paint on your brush, because what happens is if you don't, you end up with paint that isn't smooth. The brush starts to put brush strokes in it, and you end up with a almost looks like a dried up crusty paint because you're moving it around too much. All right, so that looks pretty good. You might want to give a little more paint on the rest of his helmet just to make sure we get a good layer going. You want to check your brush every once in a while just to make sure it's not gathering anything in it that will transfer to your model. Alright, that looks pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Alright, so we've got our basic start to what should be a pretty awesome looking design once we start putting the details on it. I like the way that's coming out. Alright. What else blue do we need to do on this guy? We've already got blue on this part of him. Which is an armor part. And that's absolutely fine. Now we got it on his gauntlets / bracers without going over the little faces. I think he has a couple of gems in his beard as well, but we're not going to worry about that because we're going to make those gems the same color as his armor. We don't have to worry about that right now. So,
Hi.
One moment. back. Alright, so that was my wife telling me the time. Because sometimes I lose track of it. So, a little bit longer to do. So I'm just making sure we got all the blue pieces nice and covered. Once again, on the helmet, blue is going to be the base of everything, so that's always good. And then we'll go and be able to do the details, which we're going to kind of use the picture that we have on the screen. Unfortunately, it's not it's not going to be exactly what I'm going to do with it. So, but it's a very simple color scheme in this aspect. So I don't want to do too much more on the skulls and the gems and stuff in his beard until we get his beard colored up real nice. So right now, as it sits, his pants are finished. It looks like we pretty much got all of the leather pieces that hold the armor and stuff on done. Maybe a little touch-ups needed, but we also got to remember that these guys are the beasts. You know, like they're like out there playing Blood Bowl and they're getting dirty and everything. So, and my cat gets stuck in here. Give me 1 second. All right. So, I really would say make these things with better autofocus. Actually, let's bring it over here and see if this gives us a better view of it. This is a newer camera, so not really. The light's not that great on this side. Let's see if we can fix that. Let's give ourselves a little bit more light on this end. And let's see if that helps. Come on. Not really. Alright, so we'll work with that. And now I have to readjust this part. Alright, anyway, so we have, doesn't look, the blue doesn't look exactly right yet, and that's because we haven't added everything else to it. Okay, so I think I'm going to add I think I'm just going to go ahead and start. I think we got it nice and coated. The other thing that I use on these things, let's see if it's in here. I thought I grabbed all of my paints, but apparently not when I set these up. So there's one more that I need. Let me get in here and swirl my lazy Susan around with all my paints on it. Yeah, that's it. Some blue tone. So you heard the shaking noise. Burn, 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 burn. Yeah, need to make a little bit more of an adjustment here. Okay, I like to pull it in close when I paint. So, all right. So, blue tones, the tones, washes, inks. There are some differences in those. So if I say it's all the same, it's not, but it's a similar effect you're going for. So what it is, it's a pigment, and once again, not an expert, but a pigment that's kind of diluted. And when you put it over something, it gives it the tone that you're looking for. So you have light tone, like I used on the pants for these guys. Actually, that was more of a, it wasn't a light tone. That was kind of a sepia kind of color, which made it kind of dirty. And in the beard of the other Troll Slayer that I was working on, that light tone gave definition. Sorry, let me pull it back here. Gave definition to the braids in his beard. So where it was just, where it was just, it would be just orange normally. When you add that wash over it, it gets in the recesses and adds some definition. Now, if you look at the picture that's on the screen in the bottom left, you'll see that there's some white in there. I mean, they did some highlighting on that one, and that's fine and dandy. Like if you like it, you like it. I personally, I don't know. I think it looks all right. Looks good. Looks great. They take a lot of time in doing it. But it gives that real fantasy look. Yes, this is a fantasy game, but it gives that real, fantasy's right. It gives a look to it that makes it look, I don't know, heroic, I guess you could say. Something along those lines. And I'm more of a, this is what it looks like. It doesn't give a dramatic effect like the extra highlighting does. So, oops. I'm going to keep making that mistake until I get used to this rig I have here. So, there's going to be earthquakes every now and then. Nothing I can do about it. Alright, so to kind of finish up with my time right now, I've got some blue tone, and I'm just kind of mixing it around a little bit. And I'm going to take a little bit off. What I'm going to do is just going to kind of coat, just wash over all the blue areas that I just painted and any other blue areas that I have here that I've painted previously, so on and so forth. So the helmet and the armor pieces, and it's supposed to get into the recesses, so you want to apply it, decently liberally. And I'll see if I can get a little closer to show you how kind of wet it gets. but you don't want it to pull in places you don't want it to darken up. So let's try to give an example of that. Let me go around. And really, once again, you're talking about the layer stuff here. So if I go over this wash, like the whole helmet, and I let it lay in some of the curves. See, the helmet's not the best place to use it. Well, it's a good place to use it, but it's not going to do as much defining because there really are just a few little places that it can lay. So what happens is and I gotta move up slow, is it kind of pools in the recesses. And you can see the difference. I'm trying to let it dry a little bit before I move on to the other blue parts. There's like a little part of it I didn't really get any on. Or it must have dried faster than the rest. So once it dries down, you'll see that it does darken it up a bit, and it gives it some definition around the areas where it's allowed to pool. Okay? And so I'm trying to let it dry so I can show you the difference between, you can already see the difference between the places that have dried on this, like right in here on the mask, it's dried up a little bit. And then if you look at the shoulder pad, which if I get a little closer, and then you can look at exactly what I'm talking about. So you can see the helmet and then the shoulder pad, and the shoulder pad is that, I don't want to say matte, but kind of dusty kind of thing, kind of, yeah, it's kind of matte. And what we're doing here is we're just trying to get, especially on this shoulder pad, which doesn't have a lot of angles to it, we're just trying to get it to sit in some of these little basic changes in shape. The basic changes in shape. So this might be a little much. You might, some might not put this on this part, but I like to cover all my blue areas, or all my areas that I'm going to wash in the same, so they don't look different. So in these parts, it's a little trickier because you have, sorry, I need to readjust that a little bit. Once again, I like to be close. In these recesses here, I'm going to be a little more careful where you spread it because you're dealing with those adornments. I think that's the word. Those, the raised faces on his gauntlets and stuff. But you still want to get those parts of the blue because you want them all to look similar. I don't know you want them to look completely the same, but you want them to look similar for sure. And remember to think about the model itself. Like, this is for Blood Bowl. You don't have to think about any of this, actually. You can just do whatever the hell you want. There are some types of painting for models and stuff like that everything matters. Like if you're doing a historical mini, it's a game, and you want it to be historically accurate, then obviously you have certain colors you have to use. Being that this is a fantasy world, and this is basically a violent football game, and this is your team, you can pretty much do whatever you want. So your team doesn't have to have any of the things that you see on the box or any of that stuff. You can paint it whatever color you want. You can paint these dwarfs in pinks, purples, and light blues, and whatever else you want. And call them the Powerpuff Dwarfs. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. So, in the end, it's only, like I said, it's only what you want. So, I've put the blue tone on everything. Or pretty much everything. There's a little spot in here. And probably right over here. I'm going to want it in. Once again, I think if anybody gets that close to your models to look at all the fine details and they have a word to say about it, like Tony Soprano says, make them look closer and smash their head into it. That is not, disclaimer, that is not a suggestion by me. It's just a joke. Okay. So, we've gotten in there and like I said, did most of our blues. Or all of our blues on this guy. And this is, it looks like most of our flesh tones are done. There are some places on this model I would like to touch up and use some more flesh wash, okay, to kind of define his muscles and stuff. But for the most part, it's done except for some touch up. The pants are done except for maybe some touch up. And like I said, I'm not going to go into making sure to go in and get all the laces and stuff. All these laces in his pants or whatever. They're going to be what they're going to be. I will take some extra time and effort in his beard. For sure. Just like I did in the other Troll Slayer. Because I think that's a defining piece. A defining part of this model. I want people to look at the beard. You know, look at it and go, that's a cool beard. And they're going to look less at the rest of it. I'm not making a golden demon submission or, you know, some painting contest entry. If I was, I'd spend more time on it. But I have a Blood Bowl team that I want to make look pretty awesome. I want their beards to be like the standout. Because they're dwarfs. I think that's cool. I have 12 models to paint total. And when we get to the other ones, I'll pull out the... so these are the 2 Troll Slayers. I'm doing them together. And then I'll do the 2 Blitzers and the 2 Runners and all the blockers in sets that way. So that means if I have... The blockers are going to be the most that I have. Blockers / long beards or whatever they call them. There's going to be the most of those. So we got 2 of these. We have 2 runners and 2 blitzers, and that's 6. There's 12 total, so there's 6 long beards in the box. So, like I kind of did with these, I went on the baser layers. So all the skin tones, then up to the clothing, being the pants, the straps, you know, so on and so forth, building up to the top, which was these adornments on there. Their gauntlets and stuff. And now on the helmet of this one. So if we look at both of them side by side, once again, you can get closer, just take a little bit of a look so we can pull it up here. They're matching pretty well. So I'm satisfied with that. I'm very satisfied with that. There are some detail works that still need to be done on some of them. But once again, remember, these are Blood Bowl players who are out playing. And who are out playing hard, getting hit all the time, hitting other people all the time. Um, you know, maybe they have a new set of equipment every game, but I doubt it very seriously. So there's going to be some imperfections, some little tears and stains and so on and so forth. So think about the model that you're using. If someone tells you it's not pristine, whatever. That's their own problem that they need to look at. So, it is going on midnight here, and I do have to work tomorrow. I just wanted to try out the live part of YouTube and see how this would work. And I think anyone who stopped in, please share it around. Any friends who might be interested in seeing the painting part of things, the assembly part of things, etc., etc. This is going to be a reoccurring thing that I do. Coming on live, probably, depending on how much time I have, probably a couple of hours. And it gives me time to paint and get some things done that I need to get done in my hobby. You'll see me paint a number of some Blood Bowl stuff, some Guild Ball stuff, maybe Infinity models. I have plenty of Guild Ball teams that need paint put on. Not Guild Ball. Well, I do have plenty of Guild Ball teams, but Blood Bowl teams that need paint on them. It gives me a chance to talk about games that I enjoy. So what I'd like, if anybody watches the video later, I don't know what, and I haven't set a day for these yet, and I might do that where it's like every Wednesday or whatever. Figure out the schedule, but it gives me a chance to talk about the games that I enjoy while I actually get some hobby done. So, once again, subscribe to the channel. Even more, subscribe to the channel. Even just as important, share with your friends. Let them know what game now is out there. We have a lot of fun things coming down the pipe. This is just one of the things that, or the pipe, whatever that phrase is. I always wondered about that. It's coming down the pipe like the turnpike, or is it coming down the pipe like, the plumbing pipe? So, but we have a lot of things that we're going to be doing. Right now we have the War Machine Escalation series. We have some Star Wars Legion stuff coming up with Nick and I. Nick is doing some really cool stuff with these Theme Force videos that he's doing. They're kind of like PowerPoints where he kind of goes over the different theme forces for the different armies in War Machine. He's a big War Machine fan. We have some video game stuff. Kakita Ren doing the quiet plays. We may see some more stuff down the line for that too. Different people doing video stuff. I'm going to be doing some stuff of Super Show, which is a great card game that I enjoy playing a lot. And want to bring to everyone. Some Gaslands content, I hope, to come through pretty quickly. It depends on how many people are involved in it, and because as you see, painting takes time. Modeling takes time. So if I have to make the models myself for that, I'm also looking for someone who's very passionate about it to come and talk about it. So I think Morgan is one of the guys. So that's looking at that. So a bunch of things. Buddy Ethan and I are going to be doing some Guild Ball stuff. Maybe showing some matches, going over some teams. Maybe doing like a gauntlet where we just play a bunch of matches. And then we have some board game stuff coming. So Lots of great ideas. If you have any ideas that you want to share with us, that you want to see, we might be able to do it for you. So if you have any questions that we can answer for you, leave them in comments on the videos, or you can go to our Facebook. It's on the screen, facebook.com/whatgamenow. Send us a message. Let us know. It's going to be the best place to message us. You can leave comments on, we post on Instagram some, like we're out at game nights at our local stores. And Twitter, we haven't really found a place for you, but we have one, and they're all What Game Now. So like I said, subscribe, tell your friends so they can subscribe so we can get to that 100 subscribers, so we can get that URL, so it makes it easier to share with everyone. Once again, my name is Dave, or David, Big Kid Dave. It's usually what they call me. And stay tuned. I got some giveaway stuff too soon. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you next time on the Hobby Backlog. We do some more painting and building and all of that. But that's it for tonight for me. I got to get to bed. So I'm going to end the stream and keep asking the question, what game now?